How's it going, everybody? ChaoticMeatball here, and welcome back to the channel, and to my attempts at a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Insurgence using only Delta Pokemon. So the first question you may be asking is, wait a second, what are Delta Pokemon? Well, they originate from the Pokemon trading card game, an EX Delta species, where Pokemon from the Halon region have different typings, such as this Tyranitar card that's both Fire and Metal type. And yes, that is Metal type in the TCG, not Steel. I don't know why. Very weird, but I digress. Insurgence expands on this by not only doing new typings, but new forms as well, such as the starter Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle being Fairy Psychic, Ghost Dragon, and Dark Fighting respectively, and having the looks to back this up. Really neat typings, right? Well, we're going to be flooded with them thanks to the astounding 40 encounters we'll have available to us. I'll list them as we go along, but know we're going to have a ton of variety, and you'll likely be seeing me swap out my team a ton thanks to many of the different bosses in this game, and the fact that it's just naturally difficult, but I want to test myself. Plus, this game has a Nuzlocke function built in, so that'll be pretty cool to use. But with that, let's just jump in. Make sure to like this video. I'm telling you guys, we need a 2,000 like minimum on this video. After all, over 10,000 of you guys jump in on the first day of the upload. It helps out a ton if you do. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me over on Twitter for funny Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Ha-has. And let's get started. So first things first, who's our starter? Well, in Telnor Town, we're given those options listed earlier, and it's sort of a no-brainer once you realize the contents of the game. The Cult of Darkrai is the main antagonist of the game, and Charmander kinda just is automatically in shambles due to being a Brittle Ghost type, and while the Squirtle line has the Fighting type as a part of it, the base stats of Blastoise are just not up to snuff. It's not as good as you'd think, so I'm gonna take the Fairy Psychic Bulbasaur. For some reason though, it starts at level 7, so our rival battle against Damien is a bit of a pathetic beatdown. I'm able to take out his Charmander with 2 confusions, barely taking any damage from a scratch. But that's definitely not the case with most of the game. It's pretty evident when I have my first fight against the Abyssal Cultist in Telnor Town after meeting with the Augur. Due to being slightly underleveled, I'm left to take too much damage from a Bubble and Water Gun from Horsey, and I'm forced to reset. Second time around doesn't go much better, and I'm hit with a critical from a random trainer's Apom in the Shade Forest, which is before that fight with the Abyssal Cultist, sending me back to the Cult of Darkrai for the 3rd time, and making me go out for the 3rd attempt on the open world. But 3rd time's the charm, and I'm able to make it through the Abyssal Cultist by having a few more levels under my belt, using Confusion on their Skrelp for super effective damage, and outlasting the Horsey, doing enough to KO. Nice! Now I can make my way through Telnor Cave up to Route 1 for the first time. However, I get caught against a trainer with an errant Buizel that has Sonic Boom this early in the game, going down in 2 shots and not being able to outpace the damage, since, Bulbasaur's not a grass type in this game. Jeez, 3 L's one after another. Well, you know where you won't be taking so many L's? That's right, with today's sponsor, Bai. You'll be taking a lot of W's when it comes to saving money on imports with them. If you've ever used American sites to buy things from Japan, you've probably noticed the massive price hikes sellers tend to charge when it comes to those products. But with Bai, we can fix that. Bai is a service that places bids or orders on behalf of you on Japanese shopping sites, then ships directly to you without any of the pain of scalpers. Sites like Rakuten, Amazon Japan, and Yahoo Japan Auction are all at your fingertips. I, for one, am a huge fan of Power Rangers and by extension Super Sentai, so this is a very useful site for me to get a hold of stuff like Henshin devices, Ranger keys, and other collectibles at a much more affordable price. Not to mention, you can even use it to purchase Japanese video games as well. Disappointed by how expensive an English SNES copy of Mega Man X3 is? Well then, import a copy of Rockman X3 for the Super Famicom and boom, that's like a 90% savings right then and there. Bai is easy to use and offers support in several languages, of course including English, and ships worldwide. North America, South America, Oceania, Europe, mainland Asia, you name it and it's on their page, they'll ship it. Bai also accepts multiple payment methods, so no need to worry about getting something other than your standard credit card. Bai is also giving viewers of the channel a 2,000 yen, or about $15 US, first-time purchase coupon for signing up through the link below. So if you want to try out this great service and save some money buying your favorite collectibles, make sure to check out Buyee in the link below. Thank you so much to Buyee for sponsoring today's video, and let's see if a fourth attempt won't cut us some slack. So with my fourth attempt, I decided I couldn't forgo EV training early. Despite the fact that the secret base with the EV trainers that speed up the process immensely is only available in Metchi Town before the second gym, I'm gonna have to manually EV train my first 3 encounters before the first gym to even stand a chance. Bulbasaur is going in all on special attack and speed, as Delta Venusaur has a respectable 80 base speed and a base 100 special attack, so while it will likely be power crept for later encounters, I'll at least be able to hit hard with Stab, Psychic, and Fairy moves for early to mid-game. With them, I'm able to pass the Abyssal Cultist no problem whatsoever and make it into Midna Town, the home of the Trainer's School, though I can't proceed to Route 2 to help facilitate my second encounter. Instead, I have to pass through the Midna Mine to get Nora back to the school to participate in a tournament. This of course means I have to fight both her and our rival Damien again, and they're both 1-on-3, so this is going to be a little rough. He leads Corphish as I go for my newly evolved Ivysaur and Psybeam, barely not one-shotting and taking Vice Grip afterwards, though thanks to the leftovers being available off of a Floatzel here in Midna, I'm able to get some of that HP back after 2 turns, KOing with Fairy Wind as Luxio's in second. Psybeam does barely under half as Luxio uses Charge, increasing his special defense and forcing Psybeam into a 3-shot, doing exactly half with Spark as it goes down and is replaced by Delta Charmeleon in last. The AI is a little wonky here though, as he continues to go for Confuse Ray over and over again despite having access to Shadow Sneak, and I guess I got lucky with a few coin flips here as Ivysaur never hurts itself with Confusion, instead KOing with 3 Psybeams to win. Also, another little unfortunate thing is that I'm not gaining EXP from these fights. Instead, I have to go through this with just the level cap of level 17. Otherwise, I would have really appreciated the extra level for Nora, but I digress. She leads off with Sewaddle, and this thing is threatening. It may not look it, but String Shot is definitely boning me here. It goes down in 2 Psybeams as Trapinch comes in second. Of course, it's a very slow mon, so I can just pound it out with a Psybeam, but Bulldoze contributes to my speed problem as well as a ton of damage, so I'm going for Hypnosis and Leech Seed to hopefully recover some of that HP back in time for our final mon, Bayleaf, and the plan works. Leftovers adds on to that, so I'm at nearly full HP as Bayleaf comes in, but I can't Leech Seed this thing, so this is all I'm getting. I just go for Psybeam here, barely hanging on for dear life through the leftovers and the Razor Leaves, but the second Psybeam manages to confuse Bayleaf, forcing Nora's Mon to hit itself and go down without the risk of a critical Razor Leaf. I was wondering if this would even be possible, but I suppose I just needed a little bit of luck. Now that Route 2 is accessible though, I can catch myself a Totodile, bringing it back over to Route 1 and trading with this hiker for a Delta Dwebble. Now, there's actually 2 different types of Delta Dwebbles that are considered separate species in this game, but the other one's only available in the post-game, so we don't really have to worry about it. This one's a Fairy Normal type based on Cake, which is neat, but another Fairy type when I'm coming up on a Fire type gym is a little rough, but we'll take it. It's another Pokemon. I just need fodder at the moment. Thankfully though, the third and final encounter before the first gym happens from the Broadcast Tower in Suntouch City, where I can get a Delta Grimer from Mission 2 that's Ground type. Well, that's super effective. What about its moves? No, these are garbage. Not a single useful thing here, and it's already caught at the level cap, so it'll likely just be a pivot if my stats get reduced too much during the fight against Orion. With the level cap being 25 though, I'm easily able to grind my way to maxing out my EVs with Ivysaur, finding a shiny Ghastly in the process and capturing it as to not upset the balance of the comments section. However, since Dwebble is traded here, I want to keep it at level 24 since she starts disobeying at 25. Figured if I'm going to use her at all, I may as well not have to also hit heads on a coin flip for her to do anything. Anyway, Orion leads off with a Vulpix, whom I immediately Leech Seed with Ivysaur, with both of us missing Hypnosis in sequence as his second one manages to land. It's a little unfortunate, but I figured I'd take this opportunity to swap to Dwebble and see if I can't just set up a few workups with the Leech Seed healing. I'm just gonna write that down as a nope, not a chance. Back out to Ivysaur we go and just sit here until she wakes up, using the newly learned Draining Kiss to both drain Orion's potions and Vulpix's health so that we're full and ready to go for his own regular Ivysaur. I've got type advantage in Psychic, so I'm able to hit him down to red HP with Psybeam, but he also has type advantage on me with Sludge for Fairy, doing less than half as I KO with another Psybeam, as third out is Deerling. This is pretty easily taken care of with Draining Kiss, as 3 takes him out through Facade, keeping my HP high enough as Charmeleon comes out last. Lizardman here doesn't exactly have too much offensive pressure outside of fire moves, as Dragon Breath is, not usable on a fairy type, so it just goes down in 2 Psybeams, winning me the fight. Jeez, I forgot the first gym leader had 4 Pokemon. Insurgence is going to be harder than I thought, but we'll persevere, we always do. Unless the challenge is impossible, but I think with 40 Pokemon, we're more than safe. So with our first badge in hand and some story and legendary buildup, I'm safe to continue to Route 3, where I can trade a Magnemite that I caught from the Sun-Touched exitway for a Delta Scyther, an Ice Fighting type, which is pretty interesting. Not too often do you get an Ice type that can hit hard, especially physically, and do it at a very speedy rate, as this is a base 100 speed Pokemon. So I'm looking forward to using this guy again. That's not the only encounter though, as we can grab some honey from Route 3, using it on the upper layer of Sun-Touched City to get a Delta Apom, a ghost and normal type before Hisuian Zoroark ever existed. This is a crazy good type combo, as we gain 3 immunities against normal, fighting, and ghost, while also only being weak to dark, a very easy type to counter with the fairy type Ivysaur and Dwebble that I have. However, before we can continue, it's time for another rival battle against Nora. Sadly, she's blocking my way to the secret base in Metchi Town, so I've got to get past her in order to efficiently EV train my new encounters. Since we're not done with new encounters before the second gym though, I feel safe overleveling my Ivysaur to level 28. Not over the cap, but overleveling for this fight in particular, and just sweeping. By using a mix of Leech Seed to keep my HP high against her lead on-edge, Draining Kiss to both attack and recover more HP, and Calm Mind to yield out more damage with Draining Kiss and therefore gain back more HP, I can solo the fight with Ivysaur, taking out on-edge, though he does take Ivysaur down to 3 HP, which was a little frightening, Swadloon in one shot, Floette after a few more Calm Minds and a Psybeam, and Celebi with 2 Draining Kisses, culminating in the evolution into Venusaur for my troubles. Perfect! With her out of the way though, it's time to establish the secret base and get EV training. Though I do make sure to grab my Route 4 encounter before jumping in head first, getting Delta Ralts, an electric and ice type which should put an utter pounding on my opponents. From there I'm able to grind up my Apom, Scyther, Ralts, and finish off Dwebble, getting them to level 30 before hitting Vipix City, the home of the second gym leader. Since the level cap here is level 35, just about everyone evolves into their final forms beforehand, giving me access to Gardevoir, Ambipom, Crustle, but not Muck though, so that's kind of unfortunate, but I don't really need a ground type for this one. Xavier is a bug type user, leading off with Shuckle, so I establish Leech Seed with my lead Venusaur, swapping out for Crustle after she starts going for Curse, so I start establishing +6 attack and special attack with Bulk Up, healing constantly and sweeping from there, using Dazzling Gleam to KO Shuckle, Chip Away to get rid of Krogunk and Tentacruel, leading to Beedrill and the Mega Evolution. Now this is a bit threatening, though Crustle manages to live through a Poison Jab on red HP, using Chip Away for the one-shot as the level up gives Crustle a bit more HP to survive safely through the Toxic Poison along with leftovers. We'll need to take out the rest of the team by normal means though, because Crustle is way too far gone now. 5th out is Haunter, and I deliberate a little bit, going into Grimer to take a Venoshock for minimal damage, but then I remember to check and see if this one has Levitate. And he sure does, so I swap into Ambipom, taking an unfortunate Will-O-Wisp that prevents Shadow Punch from one-shotting, taking a Dazzling Gleam but KOing after Xavier tries healing, leaving just Heracross. Grimer kind of hard walls here, but then I realize, oh, Bug Bite does a boatload of damage. Let me swap into Scyther to actually do a bit of walling, taking Bug Bite for minimal damage, then using Return to do over half, but finally suffering a loss to a Brick Break. Yeah, it was bound to happen, but I walked in with a team weak to Bug, so that's fine. I can just go into Venusaur, KOing with Psybeam after almost having a heart attack with missing from Double Team. I love Double Team, it's just great accuracy and deprivation and evasion and One loss isn't bad though, but I was hoping to get to potentially use Delta Scizor later. Delta Scizor, I don't care. Oh well, there's plenty of other Deltas under the sun to get by with. Now that we're done with the second gym though, the Abyssal Cult has captured Damien and I gotta go rescue him. Not taking too much time and giving me access to Shaman's Seed Flare ability to restore water back to normal. Not too useful at the moment, but it will come up later. Past Vipik City is Route 5, and just beyond that is Coral Town, though there's nothing really here at the moment. Instead, we're bolting for the Rezai Desert and the Rezai Cavern, evolving Grimer into Muck upon entering since we've got to fight Damien at the end of here. He's leading Crawdon as I go Gardevoir, as I believe this is my best shot of getting by without taking another loss. I've gotten both Calm Mind and Double Team, as well as great attacks for both stab typings, so we should be good. I set up Double Team against his Swords Dance, giving me ample opportunity to outspeed next turn and KO with Shockwave, leading to Metang. More Double Teams are in order here, getting to +6 before swapping over to Calm Mind, taking a Zen Headbutt during the grind up the ladder of stats, and to avoid a potential KO, I move over to attacking at +5 special attack and defense, landing Shockwave to KO, then Ice Beam to KO Delta Charizard, Luxray, and Shaman in sequence to win the fight in short order. Well, it isn't a ChaoticMeatball video without a setup and sweep in about half the fights now, is it? Moving forward, I'm able to access Roggen Town, but I think it's about time we start going back and grabbing some new blood for the team. Firstly, on Route 5 is the Samsara Cave, the home of Delta Pidgey. Really neat that this one's based on a cockatrice. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have no idea, and I don't feel like looking it up. Plus, it's Dark Dragon type, just like my favorite Pokemon Hydreigon, so I can't complain. After EV training him in attack and speed, as well as evolving him into Pidgeotto and Pidgeot, we're ready to continue with a full team. Route 6 is just ahead of Roggen Town, though it doesn't have any new encounters for me, so I just continue onward to Helios City. There is an encounter here, though I don't quite need it yet. Instead, we're just going to grab some held items from the department store, take care of the Sky Cultists, and take on the gym leader. Of course, before we can get into their base, though, another cult by the name of the Perfectionist Cult is messing with Mega Evolution, and I have to fight one of their head honchos before moving on. Now, if I talked about these cultist fights in full throughout the entire run, we'd be here for like an hour and a half, but in short, he's got a Kyurem, it's a little scary, but thanks to the power of Venusaur, I'm able to just set up a bunch of Calm Minds and sweep with Draining Kiss and Psychic, soloing the entire fight so that it wasn't as bad as you'd expect. Just ahead is the secret entrance to the Sky Cultist's tower, though, and if you didn't already know, both the second Augur and the third gym leader are both part of this insanity. So I guess we'll go ahead and grab that third gym badge. Kill two birds with one stone. East's the name, west's the game. Actually, that joke doesn't make sense because all of his Pokemon are going down south into the ground, baby! He leads with a Skarmory that has 0 attacking moves as well as Sturdy, so I go with Ambipom to use Fake Out, breaking the Sturdy as he sets up both a Lair of Spikes and Stealth Rock. But this was scouted. I knew he'd do that as the strategy here after watching a couple of videos on the game, and by avoiding it thanks to setting up Taunt, I can just start setting up workups as he's using Struggle. He doesn't even swap out until he wastes a full restore, then he swaps into Kingdra, on my last workup, getting to +6 attack and special attack. Should've done that sooner, bud, but now it's time for some sweeping. Kingdra's a one-shot with Shadow Punch, leading to Noivern, who actually isn't thanks to a Focus Sash. But since Ambibomb's at full HP thanks to leftovers, it doesn't matter as no attack this guy can throw out besides a critical can KO, allowing me to take it out with a second after a full restore is once again wasted. Third out is Talonflame, outsped and KO'd with Shadow Punch, as is Omega Altaria, leaving just Gliscor to fall to the same fate, and Skarmory to the same taunt strategy that forces him to struggle and a Shadow Punch. Not bad at all! I knew this type combo was insane. One Mega Rayquaza that falls to a quad effective Ice Beam later, and we're on our way with the third badge in hand. After being an idiot and being unable to detect the entrance for the Cave of Steam for several minutes, I'm able to shamefully enter and pass on right by into Utara Town, and while it doesn't have a gym battle, it does have another rival battle, but this time I'm presented with a choice. I can either fight Damien or Nora, and I think Damien's team is a little bit easier for my team to deal with type-wise, so I choose him because I'm a wussy. He leads off with Crawdon like last fight, and I go with Crustle and Shell Smash, countering his Swords Dance and KOing Play Rough next turn as Metang enters second. This is a pretty easy swap into Muck, as Earthquake's able to one-shot. Something I didn't realize about Muck until just now though is that it has the ability called Regurgitation. This is unique to Pokemon Insurgence, in which Muck actually has a Pokemon inside of its mouth that it's kind of devouring, and can use an extra attack in between turns with the Pokemon inside. Since I've got Magby, I'm able to use Fire-type Regurgitations between turns, which is neat, but won't come up here. Third out is Charizard, his Mega Evolution that's hard-walled by my Crustle thanks to being a Fairy Normal type, therefore immune to both Ghost and Dragon. Very funny. Shell Smash is pretty easy to set up 2 of before he realizes and swaps to Luxray, going down to a Play Rough as Shaman comes in afterwards. After mistakenly using Aurora Beam because Unga Bunga's super effective go Burr, I make the right decision going back to Play Rough to KO both it and the Mega Delta Charizard to win. Well then, all that's left is to take out the Oracle inside of the Udara Library with the power of Ambipom being an absolutely broken Pokemon and completely annihilating the team, leaving me to continue to the next city. However, I'm not quite ready for that. Instead, we've been skipping quite a few encounters, so while we're here in the library, I could find a Delta Badoo behind one of the bookcases, as well as get the Book of Leaves for another Delta Pokemon later on. Back in Helio City, I've got a trade for a Delta Lotad using any Dragon Pokemon, so thankfully I've got this Axew that I grabbed from the Broadcast Tower mission way back when I grabbed Grimer, giving me a Psychic Water type. This thing's neat, it's just Ludicolo, but instead of a dancer, he's a wizard. I love it. Third stop is Vipik City, as it has a tree stump that contains a Delta Wooper that I can grab after leaving a rare candy in said stump. It's a fire grass type, which should be pretty helpful, but honestly is a little power crept, thanks to Delta Quagsire only having a base stat total of 430, and the highest stat that it has is a half-decent base 95 HP. Now for some new areas. Route 8 is just ahead of Udara, though the cave that I need to go through for progression is blocked by a Snorlax. Why do these guys always want to block caves? Is there some nice air conditioning that kind of happens as a result of a cave entrance? In fact, is it even different Snorlaxes? I feel like it could just be the same one using surf across the ocean to different regions just to sleep in front of several caves because it can. Weird tangent aside, I'm able to get into Miara Town and witness the Abyssal Cult leader Audrey take the title bell from a pedestal that houses a fake blue orb. Okay, I don't know why you'd put those together, but boy howdy, I'm not looking forward to fighting a Lugia later on. I figured I'd want to optimize my team for that encounter though, and sure enough, I've got an encounter in Miara Town that I can trade a pseudo-legendary for, getting a Delta Coughing that's electric and flying type. Perfect for someone using a water-type team supplemented by a flying-type Lugia. Unfortunately, though, Delta Wheezing kind of sucks and isn't exactly the strongest tool in the shed, so I'm going in with Venusaur, Muck, Ambipom, Gardevoir, Crustle, and Pidgeot. It should be good enough. I'm leading Ambipom against her Lantern as it has both Toxic and Thunder Wave, tools for which I really can't respond to thanks to a lack of berries, so I try using Ambipom to use Taunt, swapping into Venusaur in order to try a sweep, but this kind of hinged on getting burned by Scald before the taunt wore off. Unfortunately, it does not, so I get paralyzed with Thunder Wave, but I'm pressing on nonetheless. I end up getting to +3 special attack and defense with Calm Mind as Lantern swaps out with Volt Switch, but I'm just setting up to +6 and getting to full HP as Ludicolo just sits here and tries wailing on me for minimal damage, not doing enough though as Draining Kiss heals me back to full, putting me in a perfect position to one-shot her Swampert, but it barely doesn't KO Venusaur, which puts me in a rough spot as Lugia comes in. Great! This is definitely the time I was hoping for Lugia to come out. This is an auto-lose if Venusaur cannot break through paralysis this turn. But thankfully, despite having red HP already, Aeroblast is not enough to KO, and I'm able to get off Draining Kiss and get my way out of this sticky situation, healing back to full after 3 of them manage to land in succession, as Venusaur takes said Aeroblast, Ice Beam, and Psychic. That was a miracle, but said miracle allows Venusaur to power through her Mega Crawdaunt following up, one-shotting with Draining Kiss as she sets up with Swords Dance, and wastes her turn, leaving just Lantern to come in. Well then, now I'm being paralyzed for a myriad of turns. At least it didn't happen earlier. I'm able to just sit here and take a few Scalds because of it, but I'm eventually able to KO with a Psychic, having nearly full HP as our last Pokemon, Kingdra, comes in. It wastes its time with a focus energy, allowing for a super effective Draining Kiss to KO with +6 to rub the salt into the wound. Fighting legendaries and making sure you're properly set up beforehand is hard, but boy, I'm having a lot of fun with this. Actually, it's more like 50% fun, 50% mini heart attacks because I keep getting by on the skin of my teeth. With the Poke Flute in hand, though, I can bypass Snorlax, get some more story with the Augur and the head of the Cult of Darkrai, which we haven't seen in a while, but I'm finally able to arrive in Sonata City, the home of the 4th gym leader, a normal and fairy-type user by the name of Harmony. She is leading off with a Shinsino that has Skill Link. Well, shoot, good thing I have a Pidgeot that's both not weak to Rock-type moves, and has Intimidate to lower the attack of Shinsino, so that Tail Slap, Bullet Seed, and Rock Blast don't do much damage to begin with. And access to Dragon Dance for a clean and effective sweep. And access to Roost to out-heal the stab tail slaps. Yeah, this is just a recipe for success, and if I lose, this is on me. Gotta love when the Pokemon that's literally quad weak to Fairy, though, ends up being the Fairy sweeping device. Return is strong enough to KO Cinccino, Azumarill, and Togekiss all back-to-back with one-shots, getting to Gardevoir 4th, who has the ability Trace, using Intimidate against me, and making my now +5 return a range. Because of course it does, and I missed the range on the first one, getting nailed by a super effective Signal Beam that's nearly a fatal blow, but as a full restore hits, I know she's heal-locked, so I can just keep spamming return, and she either wastes the full restores, or I KO with a second one. But then again, I just get the range on the second one, so who cares? This leaves 2 Pokemon. Next out is Mega Miltank, which is one-shot by my newly learned Outrage, but then I remember, oh, that was her 5th Pokemon, not 6th. I don't know how to count, as Sylveon comes in, punishing me with a not very effective Shadow Ball that lets Pidgeot survive on 5 HP, and Nail Return on the Crackback for the KO and the win. Never punished, ladies and gentlemen, simple as that. If you're punished, it's just a skill issue. Just get good next time. To the north of the town is the Sonata Hills, where Damien's dad is being taken care of. I didn't read much, but clearly he's hurt or just too old to really be on his feet anymore. But woohoo, Deoxys DNA go brrrr. This means I can get to Route 10, moving on through Maelstrom 9. I don't even know what the definition of Maelstrom is. You know what? Maelstrom. What is the definition? A powerful whirlpool in the sea or a river. Whirlpool's not even an HM in this game. However, this place is going to be an important diving spot once we get the scuba gear up north in Kepler City. Now, while this place does house the 5th gym leader, we can't get in yet. Instead, Audrey's causing even more trouble than she was earlier and tells me I gotta go fight her, now with Kyogre instead of Lugia on the team. Thankfully, it's not both. But I think it's time that we go finally do some EV training for the new encounters, while also grabbing a few more that I'd missed throughout. First up, surfing south of Miara Town lets me sail to the Trade Outpost, where a group of thugs need to get beat up and sent packing so that I can get myself a Delta Axew. Now this one is pretty damn strong, with Delta Haxorus having a base 147 physical attack and base 97 speed, while also having a good defensive typing of Water Steel, and on top of that having the ability Water Veil so that it cannot be burned and therefore have the physical attack stat halved, makes this one insanely strong Pokemon. One problem is that the only physical water type move I can get at the moment is Aqua Tail, which is 90% accurate. This'll get a lot better once we get a hold of Waterfall, but for now I'm traveling back to the Sonata Hills and going around the back of the building so that I can get Delta Litwick after feeding it an Oranberry. No need to go into a battle and attempt to capture it, he just straight up joins the party. Next up is the Hidden Grotto on Route 9, which I can thankfully reset in front of until I find a Delta Combee, and with a 100% female chance, there's no worry about getting a useless one, so that'll eventually be a Steel Fire type Vespiquen with some nice defensive stats to go off of. Now then, to the EV training. And not just EV training, IV training as well. There's these things in the game called IV Stones that allow you to change one of a Pokemon's IVs to 31, and these are infinitely obtainable thanks to Rock Smash. However, you don't even need Rock Smash to smash rocks, any fighting type move will do. So I just dragged Scyther's carcass out of the box for this, and slammed him into a bunch of rocks so that I'd have plenty of them, so that I can get max IVs on the 15 or so Pokemon I have at my current disposal. Finishing the EV training for Combee, Lotad, Badoo, Axew, Coughing, Litwick, and Wooper, as well as evolving all of them. This takes a long time. If there is one thing about Fangames, it's that not having access to PK Hex to expedite this stuff for a video is extremely rough, though it's worth it to ensure that I have as many options as possible moving forward without having to jump back to Eevee and Ivy training after every single gym. We still have over 20 other Pokemon that can potentially be used though, so, we'll have to be back a few more times by the end of the game. We're just expediting a lot of it right now. Once this is all squared away though, I can enter the Abyssal Cult's secret base after using the diving suit, eventually facing off against Audrey once again at the end. She's threatening to say the least, but a mix of new additions as well as old friends should do the trick. She leads off with Lantern as I go with Muck, and now I know I can survive a Scald, and barring a burn, I should be able to just Earthquake for the clean KO, but instead she wastes a turn with Toxic, allowing for the said easy KO with Earthquake to happen, but also preserving most of my HP as Ludicolo comes in second. Well shoot, this is perfect. Now I get Muck for a potential pivot later on and bait later in the fight. Ludicolo's going for Hydro Pump or Giga Drain here, so I'm going to swap into my own Ludicolo predicting Hydro Pump due to the higher power output, but I'm punished by a Rain Dance. So that's a little rough, but that's fine, as now Ludicolo's baiting a Giga Drain from the opposing one since it's super effective. So I can go into Quagsire, who quad resists it with the Fire and Grass typings, using Mystical Fire in the rain to lower her special attack without doing too much damage, and making it easier to set up a sweep with Gardevoir later. The rain is actually kind of helpful with that, as the biggest problem that I'm having here is that Ludicolo's holding a Life Orb, meaning that she is taking damage that I don't want her to take, since I need to set up with Gardevoir here. So I swap around and use the likes of Haxorus to fully heal her with Giga Drain, as well as my own Ludicolo who almost goes down, but hey, that's worth the fight. So I effectively am able to go into Gardevoir, setting up Calm Mind, swapping with Protect under Rain Dance in order to minimize the potential of threatening criticals and heal with leftovers, finally getting to the KO after getting to +6. I'm able to run through Ludicolo with Thunderbolt, Alakazam with a myriad of Thunderbolts and Ice Beams due to the outspeeding and repeated usage of Substitute, Megacron with Thunderbolt, Kingdra also with Thunderbolt, leaving just Kyogre to Primal Revert, but for not, as Thunderbolt is still able to connect after Gardevoir outspeeds, winning me the battle. I think it would have been a little sad to see Ludicolo go there, since it's such a cool design, but I'm glad that yet another fight against a legendary user managed to not go far off the rails. And with her defeated, I'm ready to fight the 5th gym leader, Anastasia, and her Electric and Steel type Pokemon. I'm trying to abuse the power of Muck in this fight, basically, leading off with it against Prankster Klefki. KOing with a +2 Earthquake after a Swagger lands gets me to said +2, and he's healed off with a Lumberry, but with Rotom coming in second and having Levitate, it's going to be a little bit rougher. It does miss with Will-O-Wisp, meaning I can hit it with Return, but it's just shy of the KO, basically heal locking it and wasting all of her full restores in return, which is great, but I'm eventually burned with Will-O-Wisp, so it does go down to another return and lead to Metagross, but this is going to make it a little bit harder. She Mega Evolves, but misses with Meteor Mash, allowing for me to KO with the Earthquake, followed by the Fire-type Regurgitation, told you it would come up later, leading to Electivire. She's got Ice Punch, but I know I can survive one of them barring a critical, so I stay in and land Earthquake, doing over half, then baiting it once more as I swap into Haxorus, taking it for barely any damage and nailing Aqua Tail after outspeeding the KO. 2 Pokemon left and Magnezone's out, so this is a bit too risky for Haxorus to stay in on, so instead I swap into Quagsire, taking a critical Thunderbolt, followed by 2 more Thunderbolts so that Mystical Fire could 2-shot, leaving just Aegislash. Now I feel like Quagsire's got too low of HP to survive anything here, so instead I'm going to swap into Weezing. No, he's just not strong enough. Like I said, this thing is kinda bad. So I try going for Haxorus and see if I can get in on a King's Shield turn, but alas, that's just another Shadow Ball hitting. Thankfully, I still have Chandelure, which is a Fire Fairy type here, using Lava Plume and doing nearly a one-shot here, but it's not enough through the shield form, taking a Shadow Ball next turn, but surviving with more than half to spare. Jeez, what a tank. KOing with a second Lava Plume to win me the Circuit Badge. 5 down, 3 to go, and I cannot get enough of this game. It's just plain fun. And I might have to chalk that up to being able to use entirely new versions of Pokemon combined with not being able to do calcs due to these Pokemon not being something I can enter into Showdown's calculator and ensure victory. All of these battles are simply intuition based on the opposing trainer's team, and I feel like I'm not doing too terribly bad. With that badge in hand, though, turns out Anastasia has her hands dipped into the Perfection cult, so we've got to take out Tane once again. Tyne, I do not know how to pronounce this name. He's added that armored Zekrom to his team, but instead leads with Grumpig as I go for Muck, trying to go for Minimize but getting hit with Taunt immediately. I figured he would at least let me use one status move before pulling the trigger on that, but hey, I don't know the inner machinations of AI. All good though, as Psychic barely does any damage on the follow-up, and I'm able to use Earthquake, barely missing the one-shot with the Regurgitation attack. You really gotta love ranges, after all, it's written into law. I'm able to follow up with Return though after a second Psychic, still hanging on with around 2/3 HP left as Pyroar comes in second, falling to an Earthquake after fumbling the Will-O-Wisp. Third out is Charizard, and since he's got the Charizardite X, we're safe to use Earthquake as it's going to shift into a Fire Dragon type, landing and barely not one-shotting once again as Dragon Claw does some harsh damage. Due to Regurgitation also being quad-resisted, it's still unable to KO despite how little HP Charizard still has, so I've got to swap. I've got plenty of options though, opting for Vespiquen as he swaps for Luxray on the same turn, using Superpower for a boatload of damage following up, though Vespiquen's crazy high defenses managed to let it survive and land Iron Head for some chip damage, but I've got to swap again. Out to Chandelure we go, and I'm right on the Superpower prediction, barely taking any damage and KOing on the following turn with Lava Plume, sweeping from here. Moonblast takes out Charizard, Armored Zekrom, and Kyurem all in one shot without a single boost to win the fight. Guess it pays off to have a base 145 special attack. Moving through several unimportant areas though lands me in Hecate Town, just north of the Fiery Caverns, where the Infernal Cult of Groudon is working out of. Oh man, so many cults, so many people to punch in the face. This all culminates in a battle against their head honcho Zenith. He was with us in the Udara Library a couple of gyms back, disguised as a guy named Zachary, and he was one of the characters in the room with us when the Oracle said that one of us in the room would be joining the cult. Well, I guess he doesn't count because he was already in it. I don't really care though, I'm just here to punch people's faces in. Speaking of punching faces, he tries counteracting that with Blaziken in order to outrange me with some kicks, but upon wasting a turn with Swords Dance, I'm able to KO with Muck's Earthquake plus Regurgitation, leading to Volcarona. One Quiver Dance is set up here by Volcarona, but that doesn't matter as 2 Earthquakes is more than enough to KO this thing, taking a Bug Buzz for a little over half as Chandelure comes out third. The best thing I could do here though is swap into Pidgeot, as I resist every one of his moves here, and I don't really have the chance of getting burned, so I just keep clicking Dragon Dance until I hit +6, realizing I can't hit him with anything beside Outrage, so that's a little rough. A little bit of poor planning, but that's fine. I'm able to KO with 2 of them, breaking the Substitute, and then KOing on the following turn before becoming confused due to fatigue. I was kind of hoping to get 3 of them off, because Excadrill's out next, and I have to switch on a Swords Dance turn, therefore making this guy way worse to deal with. So I go into Muck, as Muck's relatively defensive. I should be able to live even a +2 Iron Head, and well, curse my brain for thinking that ground resists steel. I'm a dum-dum. This is fine, though. It's fine. I'm able to go into Chandelure, and it more than outspeeds here, Lava Pluming for a one-shot and leaving just Magcargo. He Mega Evolves, but that's not much of a problem, as A, it loses the Rock typing, and B, Magcargo is still bad despite a boost of 100 in his base stat total. Who would have guessed that Magcargo is still bad? Despite resisting it though, I just spam Moonblast through everything he does, KOing without losing too much HP to win. Well shoot, losing Muck is a little bit bad, though I don't think it's really as bad as it could be. This is because Muck is kinda just power crept by this point, with encounters like Roserade, Haxorus, and even a few others that we'll get to later. I don't think we were going to be missing out on much. One escape rope later though, and it's time to move. Route 12 to the north gives me a clear path to Celine City, the home of the 6th gym leader. Sadly though, I've got to clear out the Darkrai cultists again, making me fight yet another cult head in Persephone. She's leading off with Gengar, so I go with Roserade. Now, this may be considered a, bad move because I'm throwing a fairy type against a poison type, but A, Dark is super effective against Ghost, and B, it's actually just a Mega Zoroark that also manages to have the illusion ability going into Mega Evolution, which is really neat, and I wish we had gotten this in one of the main games. However, this is an easy 2-shot with Draining Kiss, healing nearly back to full as Greninja comes out second. I'm intrigued by what he'll be going for here, so I go for Protect, tanking a Hydro Pump, and I guess I can survive one, staying in and using Draining Kiss, and sure enough, I'm right, but just barely, though the Life Orb damage manages to take it down. Third is the actual Gengar, so I use Lunar Cannon, a 2-turn Dark-type move with some pretty high power, but thanks to a held Power Herb, I can outspeed and one-shot without having to burn up a turn of charging, leading to Hydreigon. Ho-ho! Bad move here, that's quad weak to Fairy, and I just so happen to be needing that HP, thank you very much. From red to full, what can I say, ladies and gentlemen? Skill issue. Last out is Spiritomb, and he's unable to yield out enough damage despite hitting both Will-O-Wisp and Sucker Punch, going down to 2 Draining Kisses for lethal damage. 3 cult members of 3 separate cults in a row. See what I meant about this video turning into an hour-and-a-half movie if I talked about them all? Well, I digress, we're ready to fight Diana, a Ghost and Psychic-type user. After some necessary prep of reteaching some moves and getting to the level cap though, this should be a walk in the park. Actually, scratch that, this is a bad fight. Not bad in the sense of multiple losses, but bad in the sense that I kinda just got to the point where I started clicking buttons without thinking, and it worked. This is all because of a stupid Sableye that leads off her team with Trick, giving one of my Pokemon a Choice Scarf, then using Will-O-Wisp to burn whatever Pokemon comes in afterwards. This is able to be blanked effectively though, because I have Haxorus, which has Water Veil, therefore preventing burning. But that then poses another problem. She has Foul Play, so despite the fact that I can rotate between this and Pidgeot for Intimidate, Foul Play works on my attack stat, not hers, so setting up even a single Swords Dance is a death sentence. So with all of these problems all mashed together, I kinda just have to start playing footsies with the damn thing until Diana decides she's had enough, swapping out to Gardevoir as I go into Ambipom, using both Fake Out and Shadow Punch to KO, putting me on the board at least as this stupid fucking gremlin comes out again. More switching, trying to drain power points, thankfully finally seeing Knockoff. Well then, I guess we'll just start doing the whole Intimidate spam thing again, then swap into Haxorus, use a single Swords Dance, since just in case if he still has Foul Play, then sweep from here. Heavy Slam on Sableye and Crunch on both Gengar and Chandelure leads to her Mega Gothitelle. This thing is a curse on the eyes, shifting into a Psychic and Dark type as well, but it's not enough as 2 Crunches KOs as she wastes time with Calm Mind, leaving just Cresselia to do the same, as 2 Crunches takes her out. Now that wasn't a bad fight, it wasn't a good fight, so I think we can safely say that this was the fight of all time. The next badge is actually quite a ways away since we're getting close to the climax of the story and getting sent on our way towards other things. But after running through Route 13 and the Dragon Ruins, I have to fight Tyne again. He is trying to form the original dragon with Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem, but no one actually knows the name of the amalgamation, so he's stuck with White Kyurem and Armored Zekrom, so it's multi-battle time alongside Nora. Thankfully, because this is a multi-battle though, I don't have to send in 2 Pokemon. Instead, I can just kinda sit behind Nora's as fodder for doing the majority of the KOs. This is done after clearing out both Metagross and Salamence with Chandelure, barely surviving as Lava Plume also takes out Nora's Armored Leavanny, getting rid of this useless Pokemon and getting her into her Mega Flygon. From here, it's a hop and a skip to the victory as I start using bulky Pokemon and Protect, as Flygon does the majority of the work thanks to Ancient Roar. Though with her swapping into Doublade, it does blank a turn that leads to Apom almost going down. Eventually, it's down to Armored Zekrom and White Kyurem, but Roserade's able to just alternate Protect and Moonlight, soaking up the damage and allowing for Mega Flygon to finish this battle off. What can I say? Human shields backed by tough Pokemon I'm not allowed to use tends to pay off. With Reshiram returned to Orion though, and the brand new Tesseract item in hand, I can move past the Dragon Ruins into Route 14, passing quickly into Aranos Town. Oh boy, I sure do love when Zenith tries using propaganda against people so that he can inject them with Deoxys DNA. Some weird-ass stuff here. After taking out his medium though, I'm able to head into Route 15, getting through while only hitting a single trainer, landing in Amphitrite City afterwards. This is the home of the 7th gym leader, in which I do run into Nora again while running into him, but she doesn't try battling me, so I can check out the Crystal Caves, boot Calorith back to his gym and get ready for battle. However, there's a few new Delta Pokemon that I think are worth our attention. Clampearl's over in the Whirl Islands in a dive spot to the right of the northeastern entrance, and while the evolutions are either Dragon Dark or Dragon Fairy, I'll be going with the latter seeing as Pidgeot already fills the role of the former. Heading back to Selene City grants me access to the ancient tower where Noibat ends up residing in an egg. This hatches into a Grass and Steel type Pokemon having an outstanding base 123 speed and base 97 special attack, with access to moves like Boom Burst, Flash Cannon, and Energy Ball, so this'll likely be one of my best encounters. Last one for Calorith is back on Route 15, the home of the Satellite Core. This building isn't important in the main story, but it houses one of the better encounters in the game in Delta Cyndaquil, an electric type that evolves into an electric and steel type hybrid with a base 109 special attack and base 100 speed, meaning we can dish out some fast damage with Thunderbolt and Flash Cannon, while also having some really convenient coverage like Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, Dark Pulse, and Dazzling Gleam. Answers to pretty much any situation. One last thing though, I made sure to check how Drizzle works in this game, because it depends on what generation this game is going off of. And oh boy, it's not exactly the way that I want it to, and that is because it doesn't go away after 5 turns. His later Pokemon, specifically Kabutops, is a Swift Swim user, and I do not have the ability to outspeed this powerhouse, and he will destroy me. So I connect to the internet in order to get 22 secret base flags, and in reward I get a TM for Sunny Day, which Noivern just so happens to be able to learn, and has solar power to double its own speed, since it's basically the sun version of Swift Swim. First up on Calorith's team is Politoed, immediately leading off with a Mega Evolution, very sneaky, but I'm able to set up Sunny Day, then use a single Nasty Plot after taking a little over half from 2 Ice Beams, KOing with an Energy Ball as Kabutops comes in second.
Did someone think they were getting off low kick?
Third out is Dragonite, and oh boy, after triggering the wellness policy off of Dragon Pulse, I knew I was in a little bit of trouble, but thanks to the sun being up, Hurricane is actually 50% accurate, making it miss and forcing him to swap into Heliolisk, getting heal locked immediately as Dragon Pulse manages to do over half, so I just keep hitting it until it goes down. Dragonite's back out again, but I'm at nearly full HP thanks to leftovers, and Dragon Pulse still does massive damage after a full restore, so then he does the swap thing again into Goodra. What is the point of going into a Pokemon that's taking super effective damage? I'm supposing if he uses a full restore on Dragonite while Goodra is out, that would make sense, but I don't think the AI is capable of that move. This is an easy KO with the second Dragon Pulse though, as Dragonite comes back in and falls to Dragon Pulse. This leaves just Manaphy to immediately fall to an Energy Ball. One more to go, ladies and gents. I'm shocked that I've been able to make it this far with just so few losses. The fact that we have 40 encounters, but only have lost 2, is pretty good. As you're all familiar by now when it comes to Pokemon games, between the 7th and 8th gym is usually when the story decides to drag you by the hair and take care of the climax of the story. Though, I think this whole thing with the Infernal Cult using propaganda to encourage people into taking a vaccine that infuses them with Deoxys DNA, and then putting down those who encourage people to remain unvaccinated, is very strange to use as a storytelling device in today's day and age, despite this game's plot being made several years before COVID-19 ever entered the public consciousness. Well, better get moving so that we can get to that 8th gym badge there, huh? After getting to the base of Mount Rose, I'm able to meet up with Nora and Tyne once again, not battling him, but being brought back down to the black market to talk with him and Rukra. Sadly though, it's not that simple. They summon the power of Mewtwo using Mew's DNA that I willingly gave them despite saying no, but that doesn't do anything, so I do have to battle Tyne after all. He leads off with Poliwrath, so I go with Typhlosion, zapping it with Discharge as he attempts to go for a super effective Focus Punch, breaking it off because of the focus being broken, and barely not KOing with said Discharge and forcing him into a full restore. He takes one more and gets paralyzed off of it before swapping into Gallade. Well, at least that Poliwrath is just about gone. The third Discharge lands on Gallade for a little less than half, so I swap into Chandelure on a Swords Dance, outspeeding next turn and delivering a Moonblast for lethal damage. Out comes Delta Darmanitan, a Ghost and Dark type, but despite that, I'm going to be using Pidgeot to set up a bunch of Dragon Dances. Makes sense to wonder why I'm doing this, as the only attacking move that Pidgeot currently has is Return, but I've got a held Rocky Helmet on, so when Darmanitan runs out of Rock Slide power points, I can start doing damage that way while enduring it all with the power of Roost. One thing I didn't account for, though, is that he swaps out once Rock Slide is all gone because he's holding a Choice Scarf rather than going for Struggle, jumping back into Poliwrath in order for me to take it out with a Return. Okay, now it makes sense. You used it as a sack for later. That's very well planned. However, he's just going into Zebstrika now instead of returning to Darmanitan. Kind of a surprise, but I'll take it as a free KO with Return even through Mega Evolution, leading back to said Darmanitan. Of course, it wasn't going to be that easy. He uses Knockoff to get rid of my Rocky Helmet instead of using something like a super effective U-turn like I expected, so I swap into Haxorus to take a Knockoff, but dang, that does a lot of damage. So I swap into Noivern, and dang, that sure does a lot of damage. So I swap into Roserade, since she resists Knockoff, and this is plenty of enough time to set up 6 Calm Minds while healing throughout with Moonlight, allowing for me to KO with Draining Kiss following a Knockoff to regain all HP, leading to Mewtwo. Now I may not outspeed, but Dark Pulse is still super effective, Stab, and at +6 special attack, so that KOs as Cure M comes in, falling to a Draining Kiss to win me the fight. One of these days, this guy will give up. You'd think that swapping out legendaries from your team and adding new ones would give you an advantage, but nope. I guess just get beat by Delta species. Thankfully, they've made it so that Damien and his father are meeting us up on Mount Rose, opening up a ladder to the upper part of the mountain, which is not too dangerous, but I'm able to hit Dayron Town afterwards. It's spelled with 2 A's, I don't know how to pronounce that. Dayran Town? Daran? Anywho, I'm able to enter the Rose Crater just to the north and get into the Infernal Base, but of course they capture me because Persephone decides to be a noisy bitch. Kinda like what she's been doing this entire game. Well, thanks to the power of Mew, we're able to get out of our cell, eventually making to Zenith, who's doing some TV ads, so it's time to pull a max headroom and spoil the fun. Now this fight, oh man, this fight is hard. I had to write up many detailed summaries of my available Pokemon, including those of which I hadn't yet caught, in order to make sure that I had the most effective team going in here. Since oddly enough, the Delta species available up to this point have 2 weaknesses. A, they don't operate well under harsh sun, which Primal Groudon causes, and B, there's no good ground-type TMs available at this point to make up for it, as Earthquake is in Victory Road, Dig is in the Holon Desert, and Muck is dead in the box. However, I think we should be able to make it through with a few stacks of members I don't intend on using in the Elite Four, so we should be fine. He leads off with Excadrill as I go with Haxorus, and while this is a bit risky as Earthquake is super effective and Aqua Tail is 90% accurate, it's fine. I go for it, one-shotting immediately as his Groudon comes in second, immediately reverting into the rival form and setting up Harsh Sun. Ah, not fun. I can't use Aqua Tail under these conditions, so I swap into Pidgeot to get off Intimidate. And thanks to 3 of Groudon's 4 moves being physical, kinda makes sense to do that, and that only the special move on here is Lava Plume, so of course Chandelure can use Flash Fire here in order to absorb those and be a great pivot. I do have to use Ambipom as a pivot here, an unfortunately lethal pivot, in order to get Pidgeot safely in twice to get Groudon to -3, using Protect and swapping into Chandelure, as he uses Precipice Blades. What? Why? Why would you do that? You're -3, dude. Why are you not using Lava Plume? Well, at least it wasn't a one-shot, so to get back into Pidgeot safely, I sack Typhlosion to a Precipice Blades. Unfortunate for such a cool-looking Pokemon, but it freely lets me get back into Pidgeot to get Groudon to -4, then I start using Protect and Roost to get back to near full HP, swapping into Chandelure to take a Lava Plume, then start wearing out Stone Edge with Protect, swapping back into Pidgeot in order to get him to -5. Now from here, we should be in the clear. Just set up Dragon Dance and hope to God he leaves Chandelure as the last member, because he's weak to Dark. However, this plan goes to shit as Lava Plume manages to get a burn on Pidgeot, so Dragon Dance is basically just covering the slack that Burn is causing. However, I kind of figured I would get unlucky with this, so I have a plan B. Plan B involves going into Roserade and using Calm Mind, taking Stone Edge and dodging one before he hard swaps into Chandelure as I go +3. Man, I really expected him to stay in a little bit longer than that. Fortunately, I'm able to KO Chandelure with Dark Pulse as Groudon comes back in, And now he's at neutral attack, so I've got to go for Dark Pulse here, or else I might lose Roserade if it doesn't one-shot, and thankfully Dark Pulse does manage to KO, leading to Volcarona, who falls to a Draining Kiss and Dark Pulse, despite using 2 Quiver Dances. Fifth out is Blaziken, his Mega Evolution, who of course has Protect to force through a speed boost, using Flare Blitz to KO my Roserade. If it weren't for the Focus Sash. I had a feeling that this was going to be where Roserade struggled the most, and sure enough it was. But the fact that I'm only at +3 means that when I go for Draining Kiss, it's a range, and I miss it. So I am in a very, very rough position. Not sure if going for Dark Pulse would have been the move here, since it's resisted rather than Draining Kiss being neutral, but this is just really frustrating. Heatran is his last Pokemon, but doesn't have any Steel-type moves for me to worry about, so I figured getting up to the HP that I wanted was going to be enough to get through. Sadly though, I'm expecting another Flare Blitz, so I swap into Chandelure to cause Flash Fire to trigger, then baiting Low Kick after using Protect. Unfortunately though, despite resisting, it's still too much, so it goes down and I go into Pidgeot using the Intimidate to lower his attack, but Low Kick is super effective, taking out the Bird Brain. Well, that sucks. That's 2 Pokemon I was planning on using for the League. Back into Roserade, and down that goes due to being outsped, so all I've got left is Haxorus. Oddly enough, though, because of that Intimidate earlier, she goes for Swords Dance, giving me ample opportunity to go for Aqua Tail and... Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Are you... What? I lost because of a missed ranged, followed by a missed 90% accurate Aqua Tail. Well, normally I'm not super salty because losses usually end up being my fault, but this one feels completely out of my control. I tried my best to overlevel as much as I could without going over the cap and, conserving my Pokemon in order to keep under level 82, which was the cap for Erebus City's gym. I tried using Sunny Day to get rid of Desolate Land, which was on Chandelure despite the fact that I never used it here because of it not really getting rid of the Harsh Sun and replacing it with regular Sun. Just game mechanics that I didn't realize. And last but not least, what about all of the other encounters that could have potentially been here? Well, let's go down the list. Snorlax was pure grass type, therefore annihilated because of the fire typing here. Dunsparce, while bug and water, just doesn't hold up in the base stat department. Bisharp, while being flying and fighting type, was pretty strong, but not in the face of Rock Slide, which Excadrill has, which can technically be KO'd by a fighting type move into Stone Edge Primal Groudon. Scrafty is another pure grass type, infinitely annihilated. Sluxray is Poison Steel, aka annihilated by Excadrill's Earthquake and Groudon's Precipice Blades. Liepard is Dark Fairy, which I already had the superior one in Roserade on my Fallen team. Reuniclus was Ghost and Rock type, a sick type combo with access to Levitate in order to avoid the major weakness of Ground, but a base 75 defense just isn't enough, especially when Zenith can just choose to go into Chandelure, KOing Reuniclus with Shadow Ball due to having a base 30 speed. Delta Golem is Psychic Rock, but once again is weak to Ground. Delta Glalie is also quad weak to Ground due to being Fire Rock type. Delta Avalugg was Rock Dragon, again being weak to Ground, but also to Steel, so Iron Head from Excadrill spells Night Night. Drifblim is Fire Flying, which is pretty good, but it's too slow, so it would go down from Excadrill and Rock Slide, or if we don't lead with it, Groudon and Stone Edge. Delta Raichu is Flying Fairy, once again rattled by Rock and Steel. Shuckle, while defensive, is unfortunately fighting Steel type, making it weak to Ground, Fire, and Fighting, aka most of this team's entire basis. Delta Emolga is Fire Dark with barely any bulk to speak of, and while it's really fast at base 103 and can potentially take out Excadrill with a Lava Plume, Groudon as a follow-up just utterly kills the viability. Trevenant, being Fairy Fighting, is once again weak to Steel, though it's probably the most reasonable Pokemon to use out of the pool of Unobtained. Sadly though, with mid-tier bulk at base 85 HP, base 76 defense, and base 82 special defense, and a very bad base 56 speed, it probably wasn't going to do much. And lastly, Delta Mismagius is Ice Fairy. Do I even have to say more? But what about the Pokemon that I didn't use but had obtained? I'm sure Ludicolo would have been a perfect candidate for this. Well, while yes, the water typing would have been a major help, Again, we are kind of prevented from using that thanks to the harsh sun, and we already had a perfect water type in Haxorus. However, it could have been used in a support role. It gets both screens, Rain Dance, Scald, Safeguard to prevent potential burns, Swagger. There was a lot here, but one problem. Rain Dance fails under Desolate Land, as does every potential weather that we could set up, and that ability was the main problem that kept me from effectively running away with this fight. If I could use Haxorus, I would have been able to just focus Sash against Excadrill, set up one Sword Stance, or two if Excadrill reciprocated with its own Sword Stance, then swept from there, but it just wasn't that easy. Maybe it was a mistake to let Muck go down earlier in the run, as the ground type would have been such a help in the harsh sun. But hey, we live and we learn, and I'm learning that, boy howdy, this game is hard. I've said it across this entire video, and there was a reason my Ice-type run from a few years ago also wasn't a Nuzlocke. However, despite the unsatisfactory defeat, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm looking forward to eventually getting my revenge on this game because there's no way I'm done after this. These Delta species were really neat attempts at regional variants and to integrate the trading card game into a video game, and I'm glad to have taken nearly half of the available ones before the league for a spin. And I think I have a new favorite fake Pokemon in Delta Haxorus. That thing looks cool. Leave a comment down below mentioning your favorite from the pool of Deltas. I'd love to see your opinions. Until next time though, thank you to my patrons and my viewers, and I hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.